Welcome back to Pokemon Platinum. We have a bit of a short part because, yay, water route to the Victory Road.
So I was scanning through this video before we started, and one thing I noticed is that this area has exactly one waterfall before you are supposed to get to the PC box, the Pokemon Center, before you go through Victory Road. Every game has one of those. And I'm just thinking that I don't know why that's there, because, like, all that does is if you forgot to put Waterfall on any of your Pokemon, you just have to go all the way back and then to the last Pokemon Center to get a Pokemon with Waterfall, and then go through the same
all the way back
again. That's annoying. The other thing is that one thing that I missed from some of the other games is the tension and the build-up to going into Victory Road, because this is supposed to be like this big place, and it's supposed to be like scary and threatening and awe-inspiring and all that. And the games that I feel like do the best job with that are Gen 1 and Gen 5, where in Gen 1 you have this really like ominous music, and then every couple of seconds you go through this gate and they're like, you have this badge, please enter. And then you go through, and it makes the actual dungeon itself feel very grand. And Gen 5 also has a similar thing with a bunch of gates that work like that, but the thing that I love about the Gen 5 Victory Road entrances is that every time you go through one of the gates, the music adds another instrument. So it starts off just dead quiet, and then it starts with, I think, drums and then bass, and then it adds like these counter harmonies until the main melody will start to come in as soon as you actually enter Victory Road itself. And it's just, I really love all this stuff. And in this game, there's literally just like a normal water route, and then you go up a waterfall, and then you're just at Victory Road, and there's just no there's no gravitas, that's the word. There's no gravitas to the whole thing. It just feels very anticlimactic, which it shouldn't, because this is supposed to be the big end of the game.
So if you were to go between those two, would it have been a double battle?
Yes.
Huh. I like that they sort of give you the option to divide and conquer there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of the games let you do that. I think even as early as like Gen 3. Yeah, let you do that. Which, again, I always appreciate, because you can either, if you don't like double battles, you can just not, and then that's fine. Also, I know we're 30 parts in, but does Shazam, legally have to have an exclamation point?
Yes.
So,
no, I don't know. I don't know if it's how it works for trademarkings, but whenever you use the word, it has to have an exclamation point. Yes.
So, what if you're just trying to talk to him normally in a library?
The magic can sense whether or not he's trying to transform or not.
Yeah, but it's just but what if you're just trying to talk to Shazam? Do you have to be in the library? It's like, Shazam, can you hand me the Robert Frost? And then the library yells at you and you get kicked out.
Exactly.
Man.
Well, you could always just whisper it slightly louder to imply the exclamation point.
Yeah, but then you sound really silly, because you're like, Shazam! And it's just nobody can take you seriously like that.
Could anyone take you seriously if you were saying the word Shazam?
Okay, point Lewis.
They're going to be swimming a whole lot if you want to swim every sea in the world.
I have this region to show you. It's called Hoenn. I think you'll like it.
You see, I've always wondered about all the people who are just, standing 2 feet outside of Victory Road. Because these trainers must be strong enough to beat all of the gym leaders if they can get here. But they just are, standing here for no reason. It's I guess the implication is that they're training because they're not yet strong enough to do it. But since it's the world of Pokemon, it just kind of feels like they're always standing around and not doing anything.
I'd like to see Pokemon do some things with dynamic trainer placement, where they'll move around from place to place throughout the game.
So, oh god, I haven't watched the E3 footage where they actually showed off the open area in forever, since E3. I don't remember there being any trainers at all in that section.
Yeah, not that I recall.
And we've seen...
And honestly, the game... at least for the E3 build, it kind of chugged.
Yeah, but I do remember from trailer things that, you still have your typical standard trainers wandering around. Like not just wandering
The
around,
normal
like just
routes.
standing around in normal routes. And I mean, like, I know that some of this is just gameplay stuff. Like, for example, like, we've had NPCs standing in their houses and whatnot since the very, very first RPGs. But I feel like it feels a little bit more silly with Pokemon because, again, these people are just kind of standing in the middle of nowhere. Like, that's what the routes are. It's just like nobody goes on the highway and then just parks there, is that kind of thing. So it just...
You just stand on the sidewalk in front of your 7-Eleven and just start to pick a fight with anyone who dares draw near.
Well, yeah,
Exactly.
the idea is that they're supposed to be out there doing the same kind of thing you are. Like, the bug catchers are in the forest with all the bugs and all of that. But it's not quite meticulously placed enough to feel natural within the world, so...
At the very least with modern technology, because with 8-bit...
With 8-bit, it's
8-bit
like,
Gen 1,
nothing's
you're supposed to
realistic,
use-
so who cares? But
You're supposed to use your imagination a lot, but, we get to modern day, and it's just like, I'd like some trainers that wander around, like, I know that there are other games that probably do this, but the first thing I pop to is Breath of the Wild, where, randomly, like, ninjas just attack you out of nowhere when you're wandering
yeah,
around.
or you
after
see
that.
a random group of adventurers who's not necessarily scripted to always be in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, and I feel like that would be cool, where not everybody is scripted. You walk to this specific tree, and some people fight a hiker there, and some people fight a bug catcher there. Like, I think that would be cool. Is that what the game's going to be like? If it is, I'll be happy. But
God save the speedrunners if that's the case, though.
well, I mean, the Pokemon trainers have never really been that hard to. Have never been that hard to dodge, thankfully. Like, I'm glad that the new games have made it very clear which ones can, and like when you're about to be like encountered by one. So I don't think that they'll really mind, because I'm sure that all of the important fights are going to be scripted. I mean, granted, like, if they have some sort of strat about like grinding at a specific trainer or whatever, then they're screwed. But I also don't think that speedrunning's a niche.
Speedrunners will find a way around crap anyway.
Yeah, and also, like, I know that this might sound a little bit douchey, but I'm gonna say it anyway because that's never stopped me before. I'm kidding. Speedrunning is a niche group, and I feel like, especially with a game like Pokemon, catering the game to specifically be for them at the expense of everybody else is not a good idea. Like,
Obviously, I had to save and start a new session.
yeah. Like, I mean, granted, I feel like a lot of games have made a lot of features that make their game speedrun accessible, and I feel like that's a great thing. But a lot of the times, those are things that don't harm the experience for everyone else at all. And so, that's fine. But, if the randomness were there to spice up the adventure and make it feel more natural and, make the world feel more lively, I would rather have that in the game, even if it means that there's dreaded RNG for the speedrun, It's like, it's a Pokemon game. There's going to be random stuff in there anyway,
Oh, well. It's just I've personally witnessed certain people getting extremely pissy and entitled about it. So,
Yeah, oh, yes, of course, because that happens, and I hate it when that happens too. It's just,
you're about to say dislike in an attempt to be more polite, and you just gave up.
I've been trying, Yeah, but it's at some point it's hard to say what you're really thinking without being rude about it, when what you're thinking has to do with people's actions, so at some point you just have to stop dancing around it and say what you really mean. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But like with that kind of case, I feel like the needs of a niche community should not outweigh the needs of the general community. And I feel like that, like, in terms of Pokemon, I feel like speedrunning is not so much the thing that will probably be what they would focus on at the expense of everybody else, but probably like competitive people or whatever. Like if they were to add such and such mechanic that was, you know, exclusively there to make the game more complex for competitive people, but made the game less enjoyable for everybody else, then I would say that that's a bad mechanic, even if it did make some people happy, because it makes less people. It makes more people unhappy than it makes people happy. So in that end, it's a net negative.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, like, we've talked a bit about the breeding mechanics and the roaming legendaries and stuff, but if you're just playing through the game to have fun, you don't really have to pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah, no.
So,
Like, even if you're, like, the roaming legendaries, like, if you don't care about Pokedex completion or even getting all of the legendaries, like, the roamers don't bother you because, you know, there's nothing says you have to catch them,
well,
I suppose.
I would argue less in the case of the legendaries, because the legendaries themselves have a certain allure that even casual players are going to be attracted by, and it is going to be frustrating when you find out just how hard it is to get those ones. But
Yeah. I think we've also had this argument before, is like, is content bad if you don't have to do it? Yes, it's still bad. You know.
Yeah.
Oh,
And Blissey was Wallen, so I switched to fighting type.
yeah, but you did that. You started your double kick like 30 seconds ago, and it only
Yeah.
just died. So, oh god. Yeah, this is the kind of thing where I say that, yeah, Gen Platinum did make the engine better, but not better enough.
Yeah. I like the design of that one.
Yeah, what's his name? Galele? Yeah, that was a Gen 3 Pokemon, I think. Yeah. I like a lot of the Gen 3 Pokemon. I know that's, like, it's kind of weird, though, because there was a definite art style shift from Gen 2 to Gen 3, where I feel like a lot of the Gen 2 Pokemon fit in with the general design sensibilities of the Gen 1 Pokemon, and the Gen 3 and Gen 4 Pokemon are kind of like a separate sort of group, if that makes sense. But despite having a very similar base art style, I still find that I'm more attracted to a lot of the
To be honest, even though
Gen 3 Pokemon.
even though you say that, the Gen 2 Pokemon do have a somewhat distinct look to them that the Gen 1 Pokemon didn't.
Some of them.
If I were to describe it, I would say they look sharper, if that makes sense. More angular in a lot
Well,
of
I feel like that was something that I felt like a lot of the Gen 1 Pokemon had as well. Like, if you compare, for example, like Pidgey and Spearow to something like Tailo or Starly, like, there's definitely much more sharp edges on that.
If I were to describe it, it's not like they lack sharp edges in Gen 1. It's more like there's more roundness in the Gen 1 Pokemon to soften it up a little. It's kind of like if you were to look at early episodes of Dragon Ball Z and then compare them to, like, the Buu Saga, where things have sharpened up and become more angular because it's faster to draw that way. It's like...
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. I mean, it's...
Fun fact... Oh, you go.
It's a minor visual nitpick. It's just something that jumps out to me.
Okay, so before we end, fun fact about the Gen 1 Pokemon. A lot of people are like, oh my god, how did they take these absolutely gorgeous Pokemon designs and make these terrible sprites? Well, the thing is that they didn't. They drew the terrible sprites first, and Ken Sugimori was like, no. And then he drew good Pokemon out of them. So, yeah. That's your Pokemon trivia for the day.